candidate for United States Congress in the new 5th Congressional District, Bart Goldberg. Hi, Bart.
Greetings, Bart. Great to meet you.
Bart. It's not too often we have a Bart on the show.
It's not. Yeah, I want to make it clear that unlike you and Sherry Brewer, we're not related.
That's right. And I have to make that clear. I'm not running for Congress. People have asked me if I'm running for Congress.
That's funny.
Yeah. No.
Well,
never.
In case you change your mind, I wanted to give you a button.
Oh, awesome.
So you can wear the button after the election, and then you'll see if there's a groundswell. I mean, I know you're a pretty popular guy here. There may be a lot of people trying to get you to run.
All right, I'll wear it because, well, I should. So this new district, it stretches along the entire southern border of the state of Michigan. The new district, which your opponent, Tim Wahlberg, has represented not quite half of the district. So in half of the counties, neither candidate has a track record or history or really much in the way of name recognition. Do you see the new counties in the district being your stronghold, more of a stronghold for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I do. I think I see them all about equally. I feel good about all of them. You're right, this new district is just huge. Runs all the way from Lake Michigan to Lake Erie, I say from lake to Shining Lake, the entire southern border of Michigan. And then it comes up in the middle, it's sort of shaped like a submarine, and grabs Jackson, most of Calhoun, and a sliver of Kalamazoo. So it's huge. It's 220 miles when I drive from New Buffalo, which is my home, all the way to Monroe. But it's really, sort of one piece. It's just a whole lot of small towns. I mean, hundreds. Believe it or not, Jackson may not think of itself as a big city, but it's the biggest city in this district. About 33,000 here. The next two biggest would be Monroe and Adrian at about 20,000. So far and away, it's the biggest, but that's not real large. This is a district made up of small towns and farms.
Why did you decide you wanted to run for Congress?
Well, I certainly didn't intend to, Bart. I grew up in Kentucky, came to Chicago to go to college and law school, lived most of my life there in Chicago, and I had run for office in Chicago previously. When I moved to New Buffalo, I did so without the intention of ever running for political office again. But then, because of what I feel so strongly about and the fact that I'm of an age where I can afford to take 6 months off of my life and give back this way, I felt like I really didn't have any choice. And when I say what I felt so strongly about, the main thing that even before January 6th that had me so concerned was just the partisan war going on in this country, that people in opposing parties could no longer be friends or agree on what a fact was or agree on what institution was good or if any institutions were good. So we were just hanging on by a thread. And then January 6th happened, and in my view, that could have been a lot worse. But it did happen, and as a result, I just feel so strongly that we're so fortunate to have this democracy here. I mean, there's never been a democracy in the history of the world that survived this long, so you can't take it for granted. And so I wanted to do my part to protect it. And I think the only way we ever come out the other end to protect this democracy and come together is to really work together as people. And, we got to get beyond this feeling that the other side is evil. So the mantra for my campaign, it's on all my literature, is listen, respect, and deliver. And I try and listen and respect everyone, because if we don't all start doing that, I don't know that our future is real bright. And that future means a lot to me. So, I've spent 6 months going through the district, meeting people, and, some of them were real glad to meet me, others not so glad, but they were all respectful, and I think they learned that, even though I'm a Democrat, I'm not an evil guy.
Well, we've seen over the course of the last couple of years especially, how much the party leadership controls members of Congress, and even
Yes.
people outside of office. Former President Trump, there are a lot of people in office or candidates who have their allegiance squarely with him.
With the ex-president, yes.
So, as a member, if you should be elected as a member of Congress, are you going to be your own man, or when the party, when the House Speaker or party leadership tells you this is how we're voting as a party, as Democrats, you're expected to vote this way? Is that will you be following the line?
No, I mean, I won't always. I mean, I'm a moderate, and I, as a result, there's some things that are too far left for me. And if those should be proposed for legislation, I'm not going to be supporting it. But I am a Democrat. I've been a Democrat all my life. So, you know, the great majority of legislation proposed by Democrats, I'll be all on board with. But the thing to remember is that probably 80% of the legislation that's proposed by either party, most Americans would agree with it. It's just the extremes that dictate that conversation and tack things on that, you know, keep it from happening. So I'm really for getting beyond that. And one thing I want to do in particular is there's something called the Problem Solvers Caucus in Congress, and I want to join that. It's made up of an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, works to find bipartisan solutions. I think that's wonderful, and I'll want to be a real energetic member there.
We've got a lot of problems to choose from as what is our biggest
Right.
problem and what you would like to work on in Congress. What is our biggest problem?
Yeah, you know, when I meet people, Bart, probably the three things I hear most about, one I've already talked about is, you know, protecting democracy, and there, you know, I'll have the guts to ratify an election no matter which party won. But that's just something you do every 4 years. What am I going to do the rest of the time? Well, I'm going to work on a lot of big issues. And one thing people ask me about, and so let's just get that out of the way, is reproductive rights. I am pro-choice, and with a lot of people, that's just a deal breaker on both sides. They're one-issue voters. But once you get beyond that, there's two things in particular. Well, there's one thing that's going to get a lot of my attention, and that's agriculture. We're in a district that has a whole lot of farms, a lot of family farms. You would think, given that we have you know, such a strong agricultural economy, we'd be well represented in Congress. Well, there's 51 members on the Agriculture Committee, and the number from Michigan is 0. So I have pledged that I will make that you only get to choose 2 committees, and you don't always get what you choose, but I'm going to make that my choice number 1, so that I should hopefully get it, to serve on the Agriculture Committee, because it's just so important to local farmers. And it's a big year for it. It's not every year that a farm bill is passed, but the 2023 farm bill will be up for discussion this year. So that's important. And another thing that's really instrumental to farmers is labor. And that you know, coincides with the immigration problem, which is a big problem. I'd love to see, you know, a firm but humane solution there. But beyond that, getting back to the real world, because that's probably not going to happen soon, there's something called the H-2A visa program. And that's a program that allows farmers to hire what are sometimes called migrant or seasonal workers from other countries, almost always Mexico. And farmers want to make more use of this program. I mean, there's cherries right now dying on the trees because they don't have enough labor to pick them. So the problem with the program is that it's really expensive, plus the bureaucratic red tape is incredible. People have to hire a third party to help them navigate it. So I want to do what I can to make this program something that's more usable for our farmers here.
Bart, it's not required that someone live in the district of which they represent. You actually are fairly new into the district. From Chicago.
Right.
Tell us about how you ended up in Michigan, and as a lawyer, tell us a little bit about your life and family.
Okay. Well, you know, we won a gift at a silent auction many years ago, which was a weekend in New Buffalo. So we went there, loved it, decided to buy a second home there, intended to retire there someday. But with the pandemic, we learned that, hey, I'm a lawyer, and my wife is a consultant, and she does pretty well for herself. So, but we learned that we could both work just fine from New Buffalo, although I'll have to admit she's finding the air travel a little challenging for herself. But so we sold the house in Chicago, moved to New Buffalo full time. I was still practicing Illinois law from my home in New Buffalo, but I've given that up for 6 months to run for Congress. Because I wanted to give everything I had to trying to do this. So I've given that up for now. And as to my family, my wife Missy, we've been married about 18 years, and I have a daughter named Emma who is 27.
I hear a lot of concern about election security. This week, there are candidates saying, I'll accept the results of the election only if I win.
Isn't that handy?
Should we be concerned? Are you worried about what's going to happen? And, look at your own.
Yeah.
And you were frank with me before the show that you do have an uphill battle.
Right.
And I think everyone gets that.
Right. Yeah, Bart, if I lose, I won't be screaming election fraud. I hope to win, but it is tough. The thing is, it is so distressing what you're talking about. I mean, it's just a bedrock principle of democracy, representative democracy like we have here in America, that our leaders are chosen by elections. And when people start denying that, and there's just so many, well, obviously our ex-president, did so. In fact, both times he ran, he was denying them even before the election. So the only way I could lose is if this thing's rigged. But this time it's even worse. There's, I think, I've heard a number that there's something like 120 Republicans on the ballot that do not accept the legitimacy of the 2020 election, and many of them who say that if they lose, they're not going to accept that result either. That is just so scary. So am I worried? You know what? I still have enough faith in our system that I think it will hold here in 2022. But starting in 2024, I think everything's up for grabs. If these people that are election deniers are elected in 2022, and they're the Secretary of State counting the election ballots, say here in Michigan, what are they going to do? They've said that they think they have the right to essentially decide the way that they think it should be, or to send it to the state legislature, all sorts of ways to overturn the will of the people. Very scary. So I think we'll be fine this time, although there will certainly be drama, but I'm really worried about 2024.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, Bart.
Great.
Good
Great.
luck.
Thank you so much.
Candidate for United States Congress representing the new 5th District, which includes all of the JTV viewing area, Bart Goldberg.